In the previous classes, we have discussed few of the concepts of casual and hired and self-employed people. And today's class, I'll be starting with few of the concepts. The first concept which I have picked, that is informalization of Indian workforce. So when we are talking about informalization, let me before that talk about how exactly it works. In the previous classes, when we have seen a lot of data, numbers in the table presentation, we have seen that more than the self-employed in our country, more than the regular salaried people, we have casual laborers in our country. The informal sector, it is really increasing. After 55 years of planning in our country, so we are seeing that so many differences between the government sector and the private sector. After 55 years of a plan also, we are seeing this, a lot of people are not getting equal salaries the way government sector is giving. So many people are not getting maternity benefits, so many people are not getting pensions, and so many people are not getting equal salary like others are getting. So at the same time, we are not getting the social securities also, no pensions, so no any life security or social security in the future. When we are seeing lot of differences, it is really very important to know about what is formal sector and the informal sector. So according to NSSO, which is National Sample Survey Organization, it says the people who are getting social security, the people who are getting benefits like a good salary, good pension, and all the kind of a health insurances. So this, all the securities are covered. Only then they comes under formal sector. And after that, NSSO came with any sector, anywhere, people if they're hired more than 10 people, it can be government sector, it can be private sector, it can be organized sector, it can be unorganized sector, anywhere people working more than 10. So they have to provide all the benefits, all the social securities. So because for that, we came with few of the labor laws, and few of the trade unions are started to help the laborers, and finally social security got established. So let me tell you a brief one of the chart what we have here to just to tell you how many people are working in the formal sector and the informal sector. So in this, we are classified into formal and informal sector. Till now, I have not made an effort to explain what is formal and informal. Just have a patience. Within 5 minutes, I'll be coming to explain what is formal and informal sector. So let me tell you how many % of people dependent on formal and informal sector. So here you have the formal sector and the informal sector. So definitely we are classified this on the basis of a gender. So this is the male gender and this is the female gender. Again, this is a male and the female. So let me write here male and female. This is male and the female. We are classified into formal and informal sector. When it comes to formal sector, it is in millions. I have written here the numbers what I have written, it is in millions. So here 20 million males, they are employed in the formal sector, and only 6 million women they are employed with the formal sector. So definitely compared to male, female ratio is definitely very much lesser. So let's talk about the informal sector. How many % of people dependent on informal sector when it comes to male and female? So if you are seeing here, male, 310 million people who are dependent on informal sector, they are involved themselves in an informal sector, and 133 million females are employed in informal sector. When we are comparing formal and informal, what we have got to know is definitely informal sector is ruling over formal sector. Formal sector ratio is really very much lesser comparatively. So what we got to know is informal sector, people these days, they're more and more involving themselves with the informal sector. So one of the reason, if you ask me why informal sector is increasing, so definitely the reason is agriculture. One of the most important reason why informal sector is increasing, that is agriculture sector. When it comes to male and female, again you can see that both the side, informal and informal, both the side, male ratio in a workplace, it is more than the female ratio in the formal and the informal sector. So after this chart, let me give you precise information here. The precise information, what we have here. So according to this working population ratio, do you remember this, WPR? In the previous classes I have discussed about that. Worker population ratio, according to this, 473 million people, they are employed themselves, they're productively active. So in this, 30 million comes under formal sector. 24 plus 6, it is 30 million people that involve themselves in the formal sector. That means 94% we have informal sector, only 6% we have the formal sector. If you calculate that in the percentage wise, this is the population wise, this is the percentage wise. 94% of the population, they are involved themselves in the informal sector. In 30 million, 6 million is women. In the 30 million who are formal sector we are calling, in that 30 million, 6 million comes under women ratio. If you go with the percentage wise, in 30 million, if you convert that into 100%, in that 21%, 6 million is already very lesser number where we have the formal sector. In this 6 million, only 21% of the population, there are women. So, and the last one, 69% male comes in the informal sector. So, this is the ratio when it comes to percentage wise, otherwise millions wise. So, after talking about the formal and the informal sector, the actual data what we have got. So, let me go with the explanation, the differentiation between the formal sector and the informal sector. What is the difference between the formal sector and the informal sector? Let me give you a few of the characteristics distinguished between the formal sector and the informal sector, so where you understand the better version of formal and informal sector. So let me go with the formal. Formal sector, even it is called as organized sector. Even it is called as organized sector. Informal sector, it is called unorganized sector. Unorganized. I'll tell you why it is organized and why it is unorganized when I'll be coming with next point. In the formal sector, we always have the written agreements. We always have the written agreement. On the other side, when it comes to informal sector, they have oral agreements. What is written agreements and what is oral agreements? So if I'm joining a job, I'll be having an appointment letter. So in that, it will be written from which day to which day I will be working, what is my remuneration, and what are the rules and regulations I have to follow. So, and if I'm not following, what institutions will be doing. So these kind of one of the written agreement will be given to me, that making me confirm that from this period to this period you will be employed here. When it comes to informal sector, it is oral information, the oral agreement will be given. Oral agreement, what it is, what exactly, how it is. The oral agreement is just I'm telling you, from tomorrow you're working at my home, like a household people, the people who comes for household help. I'm just telling them, see, I need a household help. So please do come and work at my home tomorrow. It's just an oral agreement. Are you giving any kind of appointment letter to the people who are working in your agricultural land? No, they are not getting any appointment letter. The people who are selling vegetable at road, do you think they are getting any kind of agreement which is written? No, they are not getting. The people who are helping you in your home as a household help, are you giving them any written agreement? No. That all comes under informal sector. I'm just telling orally without giving any written agreement. So and so you are one, you're going to help me at home. I'm just telling, I'm not giving any written agreement. So that is the oral agreement. I'll be getting the written agreement, and informal people, they will be getting the oral agreement. So when it comes to dismiss, Easily, the people who have a written agreement easily cannot be fired, otherwise cannot be dismissed. Because in the agreement it is written, so and so date, and till this date I'll be employed, I will be working. It is by the government, the rules, so many rules and regulations are formed. So crossing that and dismissing anybody who is working in the formal sector, it is very, very difficult. On the other side, the informal sector, dismissing anybody is very, very easy. So it's easy. Dismissing is very difficult here. It is very easy here. How it is easy? I don't want somebody to work at my home, a household help. Just tomorrow when she's coming, I'll tell her, I don't need you from tomorrow, don't come. Easy. So agricultural land, if I'm hired anybody, they are working, I'll tell them, from tomorrow I don't need you, don't come and work. That's it. But is it the same thing in the formal sector? No. Just because I have written agreement, I have an appointment letter, anybody is going to take me out of my job. I can follow a lot of rules and regulations, I can go for higher authority. So for that reason, if I belong to a formal sector, firing me, it will be very, very difficult. And what about the salary? My salary is very higher, at the same time fixed, and every year it will be revised. Each and every year my salary will be increasing. So 10%, 5% ratio, anyhow, my salary will be increasing. So this year, this month if they are giving 10,000, next month if they are giving 20,000, that is not the formal sector. One particular salary is fixed, and whole year, the next year they're going to revise my salary, and my salary will be fixed according to me, and both the parties convinced. On the other sector, formal sector, salary is not fixed. So sometime they'll be getting 10,000, next month they'll be getting 15,000, other third or fourth month they will be getting 20,000. The salary is not fixed. So they can get higher amount, they can get less, otherwise they are not even getting a single pie. Even this is the possibility, even this possibility is also there. So it is not fixed, ours is fixed, and it will be revised. And it comes to the next point. In the formal sector, the people, they live in the cities. They live in the cities, and the people who are in the informal sector live in slums, villages. The people who belongs to informal sector, so they are actually working, they are situated, they are staying at cities where infrastructure facilities are really good. On the other side, what we are seeing is the people who belongs to the informal sector, maximum they stay situated in slums, otherwise villages. The infrastructure there, it is definitely very much poor facility. So going with the next point, we maintain all the accounts. In the formal sector, so whatever, in the formal sector, whatever the activities we are doing, so all the accounts will be maintained. All the accounts will be maintained. How much money we are giving to whom, and what are the expenses we are doing, and how much profit we are getting, how much expenditure we are giving, how much salaries we are giving. Each and every information, it will be recorded. We maintain our records. That's called accounts maintaining, editing, auditing, accounts maintenance. These all things will be there in the formal sector. When it comes to informal sector, they don't maintain any kind of accounts. They are not going to maintain any kind of records here. So definitely because hardly they work for 1 month, 2 months like this. So the labors will be changing, people will be changing. So maintaining records, it's totally waste for them. So here, you will be having all social security measures. Social security measures. Here, they are not getting any social security. What is social security here? It is pension. When I'll get retired, so after that, after 60 years of my age, how I'm going to work? How I'm going to live? What is my livelihood? For that reason, after 60 years also, I have to survive survive, I need money to survive, I need money to buy all the basic needs for myself. For that reason, if anybody involved in the formal sector, they'll be getting pension facility and all the kind of a social security. On the other side, where we are talking about informal sector, the informal sector, they are not getting any kind of a social securities. They are not getting any social security. That means there is no pension, there is no any kind of a help after 6 years. If they are unable to work, they are not getting any kind of a facility, any kind of a help, financial help to survive. So these, at the same time, when it comes to holidays, leave, holiday facility. In the formal sector, the people who are working in the formal sector, they will be having holidays, they will be having leave. But when it comes to informal sector, informal sector, they do not get any leave. If they have taken any leave, that means that day wage will be deducted. If they are working that day, they'll get a wage. If they are not working that day, they'll not get the wage. So this way, lot of differences we can see between formal sector and the informal sector. So if I give you an example for formal sector and the informal sector, so in the informal sector we can give self-employed people. Who is self-employed people? The people who are working in the agricultural land, who are owning the lands, right? They're all self-employed. The people who are selling vegetables at street, the people who are going with their own self-employment, auto drivers, they're owning the lorries, they're owning the hospital, they're all comes under informal sector. Self-employed people, at the same time, casual laborers, self-employed and the casual laborers, casual wage laborers. Self-employed people and the casual laborers, the casual wage laborers, they both comes under informal sector because from anybody they are not getting any life security, social security, they are not getting any written agreement, their job is not confirmed, their salary is not fixed. Because of these all reasons, the people who are, I already given a few of the examples, the people who are dependent on agriculture, the people who works in a factories, hotels, these all people, maximum, they comes under informal sector because they are not getting any social security. On the other side, the formal sector, as I told, the formal sector ratio is really very lesser, only 30 million population who are in the working population ratio, only they are benefited with all the kind of a security for the life social. So if you ask me which is the better option for any country, for anybody, so definitely formal sector is always the best beneficial sector because I'll be getting all the benefits at the same time social security after one period of time. So definitely formal sector is very better, but unfortunately the informal sector ratio is day by day it is increasing. But now government is trying to interfere in it because they got to know that now converting this all informal sector into formal sector, it is very difficult task because maximum people, 94% of the population, they are in the informal sector. Converting them into formal sector, it is quite difficult. So what we can do is, the informal sector what we have to modernize it. How are we going to modernize it? So government, they're trying to interfere and they're going to come with lot of rules and regulations and policies for informal sector also. So by doing this, to make casual sector, casual wage labor, self-employed very secured in their job. So definitely, hopefully in the future, informal sector also work will better in a better position. After this, the formal and the informal sector, the next topic what we have, that is unemployment. What is unemployment? Most probably, in the newspapers, whenever anybody is not having a job, most probably you have seen that, people take out the newspapers, in the last page, some of the advertisement will be there. So they will be keep on checking where I will be having a job. Otherwise, few people, they'll tell their friends, see, I do not have a job. please do search for me. Few people there can go for registering. Few of the employment offices will be there. They go to employment office and they say that this is my qualification. This is the skills. These are the skills what I have. Please, whenever any suitable jobs comes, please call me for an interview. Few people, they'll tell their relatives, see, I do not have a job. If you are aware of any job opportunities, please let me know. So this way, lot of people in lot of way, they're trying to get employment opportunity. Then what is unemployment? The unemployment, we have a different opinions by so many people. So let me give you two people quotations. So the first one, let me talk about NSSO. NSSO is National Sample Survey Organization. This is one of the organizations which gives the statistical information about any economic activity. So National Sample Survey Organization says, if anybody is willing to work and they are trying to search their jobs through relatives, through friends, through newspaper advertisement, through by registering themselves with any employment office, registration offices, if they're registering themselves and they're really very in need of job, if they're searching a job and they're not getting, they will be called as unemployed people. This is the NSSO quotation. So on the other side, few of the economists came with some other explanation also. They said, few of the economists said, in a whole year, in a half a day, not even 1 hour of work if they are not getting, then it will be called as unemployment. Isn't it a quite logical, both the things? They're trying to get a job through various way. They're going themselves. Even we have seen few of the people, they take the biodata print, what they have done, what are their skills, what is education. They'll fill the biodata, they visit each and every offices, whichever they feel like they'll get a job. This is the place where I should get a job. They'll visit, they'll give their biodata and they apply for their jobs. So this way, lot of variation, the way, different kind of unemployments we can see in the economy. So NSSO says these all searching way through friends, through families, through employment options, through newspapers. This is, if they're not, after that also, if they're really trying at the same time, they are not getting, then it is unemployment. Few economists, they say, in whole year, in a half a day also, in a 1 hour, not even an hour, if they are getting a job, that is called as unemployment. Whole year they are searching. And in that, one day, in the half of a day also, not even a single hour, they are getting a job. If they are not getting a job, that will be called as unemployment. When we talk about unemployment, so many different types of unemployment we have, but right now, according to your syllabus, only 3 or 4 unemployments are there, types are there. So let me go with the first one. The first one is the two vision of coming with unemployment explanation. The first one, let me go with, that is open unemployment. The first one is open unemployment. What is open unemployment? Very clear. They are willing to job, they are willing to do job, but they are not getting job. The maximum mass number of people in a country, they are willing to work. They want to involve themselves in any working activity, but they are not employed. That will be called open unemployment. In the beginning only I told you, they have registered themselves in few of the employment offices. They're trying to search job through factories, through friends, through relatives. They're trying, but they're not getting. In that case, that will be called as open unemployment. That is an easy explanation. They are willing to work, but it's very unfortunate, they are not getting any opportunities. So this will be called open unemployment. And the second type, which we have to talk, which is quite famous and quite we can see in India, that is disguised unemployment. The second one, which we are seeing, that is disguised unemployment. What does disguised unemployment means? The disguised unemployment is very clear picture. For an example, most probably you have experienced this in your childhood, yeah, in a school days. The teachers, 4 to 5 people will be allotted for the science exhibition. In the just imagine that only 5 people are there, each group 5 people, and they're working, and in that 3 people are really contributing very good to the science exhibition, the preparation of a model, explanation, arrangement, everything. 3 people are working very hard. Other 2 are left, they are not doing anything, but at the final day of science exhibition presentation, they'll come and stand and they'll pose as if they have contributed a lot to the science exhibition. So this way, this is quite common in agricultural land also. I'll give you one of the examples. Just imagine I have 1 acre of agricultural land. I have 1 acre of agricultural land. To work in my agricultural land, 3 people are more than enough. Just take it as a 4 people also. 4 people are more than enough. But still, I have employed 8 people. 4 people are more than enough. They are contributing more. Other 4 people also I have hired. They are not working much. This is called disguised unemployment. For an example, in a family, in my family, yeah, anybody's family, 6 to 7 people are there. To work in that agricultural land, only 4 people are more than enough. But still, mother and the son, extra additionally, they are working in that agricultural land. 4 plus 6. 4 is enough. But 6 people are working. But when 4 is enough, why we are giving opportunity for the 2 extra? So that means their production will be 0. Their contribution will be 0. This is called disguised unemployment. How much we need the opportunity, how many people we need to work in that agricultural land, more than that people we are hiring, and their marginal production is 0. They are not doing anything. The personal contribution will be very nil, very less. This kind of unemployment is called disguised unemployment. They are not working, but they will be counted as employed. That is called disguised unemployment. And the third and very famous unemployment is seasonal unemployment. Seasonal unemployment. What is seasonal unemployment means? So disguised unemployment and seasonal unemployment we can see more in India just because maximum people in our country they're dependent on agriculture. Otherwise it won't be that much. Seasonal unemployment means in a few months they will be working, they involve themselves in the agriculture production. Other few months they are not, they do not have any proper work, they are not working. For an example, when they are cultivating in the agricultural land, 2 to 3 months they will be working more. 2 to 3 months if they are working, other 2 to 3 months they are not working at all. Other 2 to 3 months if they are not working, that's called seasonal unemployment. In maximum in rural India, we have seen this, kind of a situations where the farmers, they involve themselves in the production process. In the yearly, hardly 2 to 3 months they will be working. Other than that, they are not working at all. So this is called seasonal unemployment. Season-wise they are working. I'll tell you few of the areas which are seasonal. Film theaters, morning show, afternoon show, it is very low. What about the evening show and the night show? It will be good. The all weekday shows, it is poor. What about the weekend shows? It is better. Let me talk about tourism. Tourism, when you have a holidays, weekends, a continuation of continued holidays, otherwise Dasra vacation, otherwise summer holidays, Christmas holidays. In these days, tourism will be at peak. On the other season, the tourism will be very much poor. So this way, few of the occupations, the few of the jobs, it is having its own season. They work at few season and few season they are unemployed. So this kind of unemployment is called seasonal unemployment. And the last one, what we see is urban unemployment. The last one, what we are seeing, that is urban unemployment. So what is urban unemployment? Urban unemployment usually we see in the cities because of a recession problem and because of economic depression. We have seen IT, BT companies maximum, so many industries. Okay, now I can talk about pandemic because of a corona issues. We have seen lot of people have lost their jobs because of a corona. The agriculturing people, they are working still in agriculture. Corona doesn't matter to them. But for us, for the people who are situated in an urban area, we are losing jobs because we are in an urban place. It can be because of inflation, where all the goods prices are increasing because of that. And recession problems, you have seen when in 2008, whole world started facing a recession. All IT-BT was totally in a flop show. So this way, because of inflation, because of few economic conditions, okay, one more example I can give you, GST and demonetization. In the time of GST bill, when everybody should pay one proper, one exact, taxation for all goods and services, that time. At the same time, demonetization time also, everybody struggled in cities, maximum in urban places than the rural areas. So anybody, because of few of the issues, economic conditions, if they lose their jobs, that will be called urban unemployment. So this way, when we talk about unemployment, we have 4 types of unemployment. So many types are there, but for your syllabus sake, we have one is open unemployment, disguised unemployment, seasonal unemployment, and the last one is urban unemployment. So on the other side, we have government and employment generation. The last concept in this particular chapter, that is government and employment generation. What is the government contribution to the employment creation? Till now, we are saying that unemployment ratio is really very, very high. It is the truth. Most probably because of our country's population ratio is also very high. We have a population explosion. So we have 121 crores population according to 2011 census. Our country's population is really very high. When the country's population is so high, how government is able to create jobs for each and everybody? Is it possible? No, it is not possible. Government cannot create jobs for each and everybody. It is even our responsibility to find our livelihood. But still, we have to see this, how government is really working to create more employment opportunities and to give the livelihood to the people. So in this one, I have to mention one of the program which was introduced long back, and right now it is called as MNREGA, Mahatma Gandhi Rural Development and Employment Generation Program. We call it in short MNREGA program. So these days, I mean to say from 6 to 7 years, we are really concentrating more on MNREGA issue. What is MNREGA program says? It is an employment creation program. So this program says, at least to each and everybody, minimum 100 days of work, minimum 100 days of work in a year. So if you call it 365 days you have, so in this, at least minimum each and every one, that means maximum here we are considering unskilled people. Maximum people who we are going to cover unskilled. At the same time, we are going to cover maximum people from a rural area. So the people who are unskilled and the people who belongs to rural area, at least minimum they should get 100 days of employment opportunities. 100 days wages. That means whole year they can survive. If we even count like cutting off the Saturday, Sunday, festivals, these all stuff, So Dasra vacation and summer vacations, hardly even we are working for 100 and 150 days only. So this way, if you are working these many days for 100 days, so definitely your wage, what you are getting, you can survive whole year. By doing this, what government is doing is, by bringing Manrega, so they're trying to give employment opportunities to the unskilled and the rural people at least 100 days for the minimum wage. After this, so the state government and the union, they're trying to come with different ways of employment opportunities. They're trying to create different ways of opportunities. One in a direct way, another one in the indirect way. State government and the union government, directly and indirectly also they're trying to create employment generation. How they're trying? First of all, let me talk about the direct. Directly, they are creating employment opportunities in a simple way. How so many people directly employed by the government, administration activities, the security purpose, in the schools, in the hospital, from the government only they are hiring and they are giving jobs to so many people. Even if you go with so many steel industries of a government, I'm not talking about the private industry here, I'm talking about only government industries. The government, which is called even PSU, so many PSU, public sector undertakings also there. So, if production is increasing in the government sector, if the production is increasing, the production you can consider as the output. If output is increasing, definitely to produce more goods, we need more people. If you need more people, that means we are creating more employment opportunities, isn't it? So, this is the direct way. In the administration of a government, in the production of goods and services, and hospitals, government schools, this way, directly, government hired a lot of people and they're creating employment opportunities. This is the way how government directly employing the people. On the other side, you have indirect way. How indirectly government is creating? So indirectly, definitely, if steel production should increase, so that means so many people, if government is increasing the steel production, so many private people is going to buy a steel. With that, they're going to convert one or the other good. Because of that also, the production is going to increase and employment creation is also going to happen. For an example, just imagine I have to increase the production of a steel. Everywhere I'm getting the demand, I'm producing the steel. I'm a government. I've produced a steel. And few private people will purchase a steel from my side. I'm giving them steel. By using the steel, they'll produce a vessels. The people who cooks at home, they need a vessels. The vessels will be produced. If the vessels are produced, the employment creation is happened. So this is a direct. Government is going to give employment opportunities directly. At the same time, with some of the activity, indirectly also they're trying to create employment opportunities. So in the one of the chapter, which is a poverty chapter, in the poverty chapter you have already studied how we can create more employment opportunities. So we can create more employment opportunities. How we can create employment opportunities? So just I'll tell you. In the poverty elevation program in this this year, if you see the portion which is cut off, according to that second chapter, otherwise in the normal textbook, it is the fourth chapter, which is a poverty chapter. Last concept is poverty elevation programs. If you have seen poverty elevation programs, through that most probably you have already got to know self-employment. One of the concept is self-employment. To create a self-employment, government is giving a training facility and financial help and microfinance facility. Microfinance means, so a very small amount for very, very lesser interest rates will be fixed. Because if you visit any normal banks, the interest rates will be very much higher. So this interest rate, the poor people, your middle class people, they cannot bear. So what we expecting is giving anybody loan in a very less interest rate. So that is what microfinance is doing. lot of banks are involved, commercial banks are involved in it. At the same time, self-help group, so SCH we call it a self-help group, is also participating in it. They give a training facility. It can be about the stitching, cloth, machinery works, and giving some information about getting a technician, how to repair TV, how to repair radios. And these way, very candle making, this way, a basic training will be given. With that, banks are going to provide microfinance, a very small amount as a financial help, and the interest rate will be very less. So that is, the government is helping to create self-employment with commercial banks, at the same time self-help group. So definitely we have to say that self-help groups are participation in this definitely appreciable. On the other side, wage creation. So in the wage creation, government is really very trying harder. Manrega is also one of the examples, so where they're trying to give a lot of employment opportunities. So Manrega, in the beginning only, I've already briefed. So this is the unemployment chapter. So all the syllabus, all the content are covered. So in this one, this is one of the high preference when it comes to blueprint. In the blueprint wise, when you're going to see the questions which we're going to get from this chapter, it is really very high up. So definitely when you're going to concentrate on this chapter, what you have to concentrate is numbers. Most probably when you read this, numbers are quite difficult to practice, but if you make it as an information, it is a very interesting concept. So thank you so much.